Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Christina Lengel. Last week, Governor Josh Shapiro went to Pittsburgh to talk about new money that the state is investing in research for neurodegenerative diseases. So let's talk more about what is happening at the University of Pittsburgh.
So at the University of Pittsburgh, it's one of the hubs within the state of research for this type of disease. When we talk about neurodegenerative disease, we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's, related diseases in that dementia category alongside Alzheimer's. So this is a really important area of research, especially in Pennsylvania, because of our aging population. And that's true across the country. But there's really high numbers currently of people living with Alzheimer's and dementia, and those numbers are expected to only increase in the next few years. So it's an issue of importance. It's also something that we have very little grasp on. So one of the things that the governor talked about, like he got to tour some of the research facilities there where they're, like growing individual people's cells to see if they can create treatments for people based on their specific DNA and the specific nature of their disease. So something that one of the doctors there emphasized was that these aren't typically genetic diseases. Of course, you will meet people who something runs in the family, but this is something that can happen to anyone, especially with age. So each person's disease is going to be different, and therefore the approach to treating it is going to be different. So it's a really complex problem to solve. So that's why specifically they went to Pittsburgh, because University of Pittsburgh has a lot of research going there. Dr. Oscar Lopez is one of the foremost experts on Alzheimer's, and he is, I believe, on the state's ADRD board. But I know he works out of there and has spoken in front of the legislature quite a bit.
So we're talking about $5 million, which is a drop in the bucket considering the $50 billion budget that we just enacted a few weeks ago. And we've reported a lot on this issue, or I should say you've reported a lot on this issue, particularly as it comes to the demographic shift that we're having, what we're expecting in healthcare, the shortfalls. And treating these neurodegenerative diseases is a very expensive and laborious effort. So the research here, understanding better treatments, could help ease our healthcare crisis that we are really facing, as far as more aging people who need care and not enough workers to do that care. And plus, the rising healthcare costs that go along with it. It's not just the University of Pittsburgh, though, that is eligible to get this funding. There's other schools and research facilities that are going to do it, right?
Yes, I believe it's going to be like a grant-based system. So whatever research institutions want to apply for the funding, they can. It is a new line item on the Pennsylvania state budget, which is we're not necessarily seeing increases in areas like the Department of Aging, which, very famously works on a very thin margin. So this is, a substantial investment boost in this area in terms of what kind of spending we usually see. Although I'm sure, millions more will need to be spent to get where we hope to go with this kind of research.
This sounds like it's a broader part of Pennsylvania's strategy to really become a hub for life sciences. That's something that you've also reported on throughout this year. And it was a big part of our joint project that we did last summer about the federal research funding that was coming to the state and how changes in that from the Trump administration were going to affect research. At the end, we decided, or we realized from covering it, that it was really hard to understand how those cuts would impact research happening now, since it takes a lot longer than a few years to get answers. And so University of Pittsburgh was certainly impacted by those cuts. Was there any discussion about the state stepping in regarding and filling this gap, although on a much smaller scale, filling this gap where federal money might be uncertain in the coming years?
No, there was a little bit of mention. Rep. Frankel, who his district is in Pittsburgh, did mention the federal government in passing a bit, but it wasn't front and center. I think they wanted to really highlight the sort of feel-good element of the story, which is it's actually a really nice story that Representative Kyle Mullins out of Lackawanna County, he lost his father to ALS, and so he made this like a really important priority in his work and got people behind it. Also, Republican Rep. Bryan Cutler lost both of his parents to ALS. So the two of them have worked together really hard to get people on board in the legislature to fund this. So I think as much as it is, to some extent, probably a bit of a reaction to what's happening at the federal level, it's also, deeply personal for the legislators who made it happen. And as you were saying about how this kind of research can take a few years to find answers, when we think about, someone like Representative Mullins, who lost his father pretty recently in the past few years, that can make a big difference, where if we look at someone in 2 or 3 years who's diagnosed with this disease and they have maybe a longer time to live, or if we could even, get to a point where this is a livable disease in general, where it's just something that, you have diabetes or something like that, where you can manage it or even cure it. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity, and, we don't really know what the horizon is on life sciences, especially with AI, and who knows?
Yeah, right. And so it looks like it sounds like there's a lot of hope going into the new year here, which is the right kind of foot to start on. So I am sure that you will keep us updated as this develops, and especially as we have the new budget proposal coming soon. We'll see if there's more money for this initiative or other research initiatives that the state is focused on. And for everyone else, they can follow us at thecentersquare.com/Pennsylvania.